80s, my gigging days, well, actually, so were the 90s and so were the 70s, but the 80s were a big gigging time for me. 1980 through to 1989 is what we're dealing with here. Going backwards from 89, some good material to listen to. World events, the World Wide Web, 1989. Only invented, mind you. I don't think we hadn't used it. It didn't become available for a while, but that was the start. I wonder if they really knew what was going to happen. Okay, 1986, Akai S900. Now I remember those, they were sampling units, really, really flash. The first time you could start sampling stuff. And therefore really has a huge impact on music because sampling became such a big thing with your bebop and your rap movements and being able to create loop samples, which we all kind of get into today. So, yeah, sampling, 1986. Now, 1985, 1985, 1984. In 1984, Bob Geldof created Bandaid, which is a huge group of international musicians. They created a song, Do They Know It's Christmas? And, it was to do with famine relief in Ethiopia, which at that particular time was suffering badly from famine. Sir Bob Geldof, as he's now called, ex-Boomtown's Rats frontman, or Bob Geldof, realised he could do something about it and did, and then the global musician community got involved. So there was this thing called Live Aid, which was several places throughout the planet. There was some places in America, UK, Europe, Australia, and a lot of other places, but they were all televised and people could ring up and contribute to famine relief. It worked very well and it was actually a very positive thing. So yeah, Bandaid and Live Aid, 1984, 1985. 1982, the compact disc. Yeah, it's interesting, eh? The compact disc is now obsolete, but it was invented in 1982 and really changed stuff. The clarity of sound. A lot of your vinyl people said it sounded better on vinyl, and to a large degree, yes, they were correct, but the compact disc lasted longer and also could take other information. So it was a real big step forward in music and data. So next after that, I think we talked, oh yes, home recording. See, I got into this, the old TAC 4-track, and you could actually start creating your own music at home. Now this is how the punk era really got about as well, because a lot of the bands couldn't get signed, but they could create their own music and release it in like an underground movement. So, and even like Bruce Springsteen used it. So it was really that start of people being able to do their own stuff. Awesome. Oh yeah, sorry. Oh, 1981, MTV. Now I didn't see MTV until I got to Australia. In this particular decade, I went to Australia to play rock. Was great. In '87, I can still remember my friend saying to me, "Oh, when we were watching MTV, it feels like we're in contact with the rest of the world because you could hear all the different artists so early." I know that sounds strange now. You've got YouTube where you can hear everything, but then to actually be able to watch a whole music channel was just awesome for us. We loved it. Okay, so MTV. Now, coming back a little bit, 89, let's get into the space stuff. Spaceship Galileo, that had just been placed in Earth's orbit by Challenger and was getting ready to go off to Jupiter. I think it took 6 years to get there. I'll just check my notes. Yes, my apologies. It got to Jupiter December the 7th, 1995, so it did take a while. But it's just an advancement in our technology and our exploration of space. Of course, the Voyager program. 1980, 12th of November, Voyager 1 passes Saturn. That's pretty awesome. Our first visit of Saturn. Voyager 2 got to Saturn 1981, had a slightly different trajectory and was headed off to Uranus and Neptune. It got to Uranus, just going to check my notes, Jan 1986. Got to Neptune, August 1989. Now this is the only time we've been out to those two big boys, and that Voyager 2 has provided us a very big chunk of good information about them. It's awesome stuff, us getting out there. Moving right along, 1989 also was the fall of the Berlin Wall, which is a good step forward for humanity, hacking away these divides. It actually wasn't easy for people, but it's good that that's gone. 1986, Chernobyl, that is a bad event. That's probably one of the, not the first time, but we started to get an idea of how serious a nuclear problem could be, 26th of April. 1985, Microsoft Windows. Gosh, so that came along in 1985. That was when it was first released. 1985, Route 66 has taken off the US highway system. Now, I mentioned that because you might think, well, how important is that? Excuse me. It is. Particularly to me, because Route 66 was probably one of the first rock songs I ever learned and one of the first bands I ever played in at a dance somewhere, and I love the song, and of course Route 66 means a lot to musicians, so to come off is, I suppose, kind of sad, but a reflection of the time. We would probably get there quicker now, I don't really know, but Route 66 is pretty cool, so I thought I'd mention that. Okay, 22nd of September, another one of those little wars, Iran, Iraq, that went from 1980 to 1988, still chucking rockets at each other. 1985, 8th of December, most of you probably know what I'm going to say, Dakota, New York, John Lennon was gunned down and murdered basically, and such a sad day that a man of peace was taken. He only ever meant peace. My friend rang me on the phone to tell me and was so upset, and I'd love to have been comforting, but I couldn't because I was upset too. It was really sad. So yes, I thought I'd mention that because of the major impact on music. Of course, John Lennon, a major player, and made a major noise in the whole thing. 1985, Back to the Future series. I love that series, and of course that was another movie that was done, 3 movies all in the one hit. Of course, it was very popular. Like, my daughter still watches that, loves it, even though it was done in the 80s. And of course, 1981, another great movie was Raiders of the Lost Ark series, and just such a well-told story. So, a couple of good series of movies, a pretty good decade. I personally listen back to it now and find some of the synth sounds a little bit harsh. That's when we found the Sawtooth Wave, I'm afraid. But there's still some great stuff to listen to and awesome movements. Okay, see you in the 70s.